Welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be here.
Today, we're looking into something really difficult, the death of Shanquella Robinson back in 2022 in Mexico. And, well, all the legal questions that are still swirling around it.
Yeah, it's a complex and very tragic story.
We've got a couple of main sources guiding us. There's a recent news report from WBTV that's focused on a specific court hearing happening now.
Right, about the lawsuit.
Exactly. And we're also using Wikipedia for, the broader timeline, the background, all those details.
It gives a pretty comprehensive overview of the events as they unfolded and the different investigations.
So our aim today is really to understand the sequence of events, but also focus on this core legal question that's happening right now.
Absolutely. The central issue really is jurisdiction. Should the civil lawsuit, the wrongful death suit the family filed, be heard here in the U.S., where the people she traveled with live now?
Or should it be in Mexico, which is, where she tragically died?
It touches on huge themes, doesn't it? Accountability, which legal system gets to decide, and fundamentally, how the family can actually pursue justice when there's so much conflicting information.
Okay, so let's go back to the beginning. The trip itself.
Right.
Shanquella Robinson, she was 25, a businesswoman from Charlotte, North Carolina. She goes to Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. This is late October 2022.
Yeah, to the 28th, I think.
With 6 other people, 3 women, 3 men. Supposed to be a vacation, a getaway.
But the first signs of trouble, or at least confusion, came pretty early when her family was contacted.
Yeah, her mother got a call, right, from someone in the group.
That's right. Claiming Shanquella was sick, the reason given was alcohol poisoning.
But this was before a doctor had even been called.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what's reported. And right away, you start seeing inconsistencies. Different people in the group apparently said different things about where Shanquella was found.
Like what?
Well, some reports say she was found unconscious on the floor. Others said in a bed. One account even mentioned a chair. And even confusion about who called for help. Was it a maid? The concierge? Or did someone in the group call? The stories seem to shift.
Okay, that early confusion. It definitely feels significant now looking back. So eventually a doctor does arrive.
Yes, around 3:13 p.m. the next day, October 29th.
And what did the doctor find?
Found Shanquella dehydrated, disoriented, unresponsive. But initially, the doctor assessed her condition as stable.
And the explanation given to the doctor.
Same story, that she had drank a lot of alcohol.
Okay. And the doctor recommended hospitalization.
Yes, strongly recommended taking her to a hospital. But the travel companions, the reports say, they insisted on treating her there, in the rental villa.
That feels like a really critical moment, declining medical advice like that.
It certainly stands out. They chose to manage it themselves, essentially.
And sadly, things got worse.
Very quickly. About an hour later, around 4:13 p.m., she reportedly had a seizure.
Oh, wow.
Then difficulty breathing, her pulse dropped significantly, and she went into cardiac arrest.
Paramedics were called then?
They arrived around 4:49 p.m., so maybe 30 minutes or so after the seizure started.
But it was too late.
Tragically, yes. They couldn't revive her. She was pronounced dead at 5:57 p.m. that evening.
So the initial narrative is heavy drinking, alcohol poisoning leading to cardiac arrest.
That's what the group was saying, and what the doctor initially seemed to assess based on what she was told.
And the first police report out of Mexico?
It reflected that initial story. Based on those eyewitness accounts and the doctor's first assessment, it concluded alcohol poisoning was the cause of death. It even noted no internal or external injuries.
But then came the official autopsy in Mexico.
Right, and this is where the story takes a very sharp turn. The Mexican autopsy report came back with a completely different cause of death.
Which was?
A severe spinal cord injury and something called atlas luxation.
Okay, what is that exactly?
It's essentially a dislocation at the very top of the spine where the skull connects to the first neck bone. A very serious, specific injury.
Wow. And what else did that autopsy say?
Crucially, it estimated the time between that injury occurring and her death was only about 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
Yeah. And importantly, that Mexican autopsy report made no mention of cardiac arrest and no mention of alcohol poisoning.
That's a massive contradiction. From alcohol poisoning to a severe neck injury in 15 minutes?
It's a stark difference. But the inconsistencies didn't even stop there.
What else?
Well, when Shanquella's body was returned to the U.S., another autopsy was performed in Charlotte in November 2022.
And
that autopsy found her spine was intact.
wait, intact. So it contradicted the Mexican report about the broken spine or the dislocation.
It seems to contradict the specific finding of atlas luxation, yes. Though remember, the Mexican death certificate still listed the cause as that severe spinal cord injury, even if the later U.S. autopsy didn't find the specific fracture mentioned initially. It's confusing.
It really is. How can you have such different medical findings? It just deepens the mystery, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It raises huge questions about the initial examination, the autopsy procedures, maybe the information available at each stage. These discrepancies are a major reason why the case remains so contentious.
And then things escalated even further. A video emerged.
Yes. A deeply disturbing video surfaced online on social media.
What did it show?
It showed Shanquella inside that rental villa being physically attacked by another woman from the group. Violently.
You mean like a fight?
It looked like more than just a fight. The video reportedly shows multiple punches to Shanquella's head. She's thrown to the floor, then more blows, and even a kick to her head while she's down.
Oh my God.
And what's also chilling is you can apparently hear a male's voice in the background. Not helping, but saying something like, "Well, can you at least fight back?"
That's horrific. The release of that video must have completely changed everything.
It did. It basically blew the initial narrative of alcohol poisoning out of the water. Understandably, there was huge public outcry, intense media scrutiny. People wanted answers.
And the authorities in Mexico, how did they react to the video?
It prompted them to take another look. The State Attorney General's office in Baja California Sur reopened the investigation.
And they treated it differently this time.
Yes, they started investigating it as a potential femicide.
So, the specific crime of killing a woman because she is a woman.
Correct. A very serious charge, indicating they believe this wasn't an accident or just a fight gone wrong.
So the Mexican investigation shifted gear significantly. Did it lead anywhere?
It led to a major announcement. Mexican authorities said they had issued an arrest warrant.
For who?
For homicide against a U.S. citizen. They identified this person as the direct aggressor seen in the video.
The woman in the video?
Presumably, yes. And the Mexican authorities were quite clear in their statement. They said the cause of death was from a direct assault, causing that spinal cord injury. They explicitly ruled out alcohol or injuries from just a mutual fight.
A homicide arrest warrant. That's huge. Did they name the person?
Publicly? No, not usually in those initial stages. But the warrant was issued.
And what happened next? Was there an arrest? Extradition?
Well, there were reports that an Interpol red alert was issued. That's basically an international request to locate and provisionally arrest someone pending extradition. The suspect was believed to be back in the U.S.
So they were trying to get her back to Mexico to face charges.
That was the reported intention, yes. Extradition proceedings were being considered. But, and this is a really crucial point for where things stand now, despite that warrant and the talk of extradition, as of today, no formal criminal charges have actually been filed. Not in Mexico, not in the U.S.
Wow. So an arrest warrant for homicide exists in Mexico, but no actual charges filed yet.
That appears to be the situation, which leads us directly into the civil lawsuit.
Right, because the family wasn't just waiting for criminal charges.
No. In October 2024, Shanquella's family filed a wrongful death lawsuit here in the United States.
Against the 6 people she traveled with, the Cabo 6.
Yes, against all 6 of them. The lawsuit seeks damages, claiming things like battery, negligence, conspiracy, and of course the immense emotional distress caused.
And that brings us right up to the current legal fight, the one the WBTV article focused on.
Exactly. The big question right now, legally, is where should this civil case be heard?
Here in the U.S., where all 6 defendants live.
Or in Mexico, the place where Shanquella died, where the alleged wrongful acts occurred.
What are the arguments? Why did the defendants want it moved to Mexico?
Their lawyers are arguing that Mexico is the proper jurisdiction. It's often based on a legal principle, sometimes called lex loci delicti, basically, the law of the place where the injury or wrong happened should apply.
Makes sense from a certain legal perspective, maybe.
It's a standard argument in these types of cross-border cases. They're saying the key events, the witnesses, the initial investigation, it's all rooted in Mexico.
But the Robinson family's lawyers see it very differently.
Very differently. Their core argument is powerful. You have U.S. citizens accused of harming another U.S. citizen while abroad. They shouldn't be able to just come home and avoid accountability in U.S. courts.
They're saying U.S. courts have a responsibility here.
Essentially, yes. Why should U.S. citizens be shielded from liability in their home country for actions taken against another American just because it happened over the border?
Are there other reasons they want it kept in the U.S.?
Yes, practical ones too. The family's attorney highlighted the potential burdens of litigating in Mexico.
Like what?
Things like significant costs, language barriers making communication difficult, and just navigating a different legal system with different procedures. They argue it would be unfairly difficult for the family to pursue justice effectively there.
And Shanquella's father has spoken out about this, hasn't he?
Yes, Bernard Robinson. He's expressed, quite understandably, a lot of frustration with the slow pace of everything. He's been very clear. He wants justice for his daughter here in the U.S.
Especially because of the feeling that they were lied to.
He specifically mentioned that, yes. The alleged lies told by the group upon their return home is a significant factor for him wanting accountability.
So, this recent court hearing on May 14th, what happened there?
A federal judge in Charlotte heard arguments from both sides on this very issue, the defense attorneys arguing to dismiss the case here or move it to Mexico, and the Robinson family's attorneys arguing to keep it in the U.S.
Did the judge decide?
Not immediately. The judge took the matter under advisement. That means they'll review everything that was presented, the arguments, the evidence, and issue a written ruling later.
Any idea when?
The report suggested a decision was expected within about a week of the hearing, so potentially quite soon.
That ruling will be absolutely critical, won't it? It determines where this fight for civil justice takes place.
It's a pivotal moment for the case, absolutely.
Now, we mentioned the Mexican investigation, but the FBI was also involved, right?
Yes, that's another layer. The FBI office in Charlotte opened its own investigation back in November 2022, separate from what was happening in Mexico.
Did anything come out of the FBI probe?
They did release some findings, apparently earlier this year, 2025.
What kind of findings?
Well, according to the sources, the FBI report included the detail that Shanquella's friends had claimed she hit her head on the toilet before she died.
Hit her head on the toilet. That sounds like another new explanation.
It does. The FBI report also apparently noted that someone in the group was worried about cameras in the rental house.
Interesting.
And that local Mexican police were contacted at some point. Also, disturbingly, the FBI report mentioned that photos of Shanquella's body showed bruising. One person interviewed described it almost like she was stomped on.
Stomped on.
Yeah.
That aligns more with the video than alcohol poisoning or hitting her head.
It certainly seems to contradict the initial accounts and add weight to the idea of a physical assault being central.
So the FBI investigated, found these details, but what happened with potential U.S. charges?
Well, despite their investigation and these findings, U.S. authorities announced back in April 2023 that they would not be pursuing federal criminal charges in this case.
No U.S. criminal charges. Why not? Was the reason given?
The standard explanation in such cases often involves jurisdictional challenges or meeting the high burden of proof required for federal prosecution based on the available evidence admissible in a U.S. court. But the decision was undoubtedly a huge disappointment for the family. It likely reinforced their determination to pursue the civil case.
And there's one more lawsuit we should mention.
Yes. Separate from the case against the Cabo Six, the Robinson family has also filed a massive lawsuit, $100 million, against federal agencies.
Against the FBI and the State Department.
That's right. They're alleging that these agencies didn't act with enough diligence, essentially, in their investigation into Shanquella's death.
So they're pursuing accountability on multiple fronts.
They certainly are.
Okay, so let's try and pull this all together. It's incredibly complex.
It really is. You've got the initial trip, the conflicting stories right from the start.
Then the drastically different official reports alcohol poisoning versus a severe neck injury. The different autopsy findings between Mexico and the U.S.
Then the emergence of that horrific video, which seemed to show a clear assault.
Which led to a reopened investigation in Mexico, classified as a potential femicide, and even a homicide arrest warrant being issued.
But crucially, no actual criminal charges filed yet, either in Mexico or the U.S., despite the FBI's own investigation uncovering disturbing details.
And now the whole thing is centered on this civil lawsuit in the U.S. and the immediate question of whether it will even be allowed to proceed here or if it gets moved to Mexico.
Exactly. It highlights the immense challenges, conflicting evidence, investigations across borders, different legal systems at play.
So really clear answers and, I suppose, justice for Shanquella Robinson and her family. They still seem quite far off.
Very much so. That upcoming judge's decision on jurisdiction for the civil case is the next major signpost, which is one step in what's already been a long and painful process for the family.
Yeah. The focus now is really on where this civil trial will unfold, isn't it? That decision feels like it carries so much weight for what happens next.
It absolutely does. It dictates the legal landscape for their pursuit of accountability through the civil courts.
So as you think about this case, it really makes you consider, doesn't it, the sheer difficulty of seeking justice when something terrible happens across international borders. Who really holds the responsibility? The country where it happened, the home country of the citizens involved, especially when the official stories and evidence seem to clash so much.
And what does accountability even look like in a situation like this? Navigating two different legal systems, potential language barriers, different standards of evidence. It's an enormous burden for any family just searching for truth and some measure of justice for their loved one. It's a really profound question with no easy answers.